Hi, and welcome back to the Positive Prepper. So, I titled this video, Somebody Wants This to Happen. Think about everything that's happening right now. I have a really hard time believing that this is all coincidental. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So, number one, Russia has said that the United States will use a weapon of mass destruction to create a false flag to justify an all-out war with Russia. The U.S. says Russia will use a WMD against their own country to frame Ukraine. And Ukraine says Russia will use a WMD against NATO in an effort to bring NATO into the war. All of them talk about chemical, biological, and nuclear threats, and all are plausible responses by any of those countries or by NATO. So why wasn't anything done when Russia first started placing military along the Ukrainian border? Why are we sending billions of dollars over to Ukraine instead of protecting our own country's border? Why are the elites buying up land and bunkers and setting themselves up in places that can withstand war without communicating the truth about it to we the people? I believe it is because they that are in control, want war. And I've talked about this before. This is nothing new. But I want to put it in this context of somebody wants this to happen, right? They want the money that they make from the military complex. They want the crisis to keep the masses living in fear. We may not fully understand what their end game is, but I would put money on the fact that somebody wants this to happen. Number two, the government has been saying recently that a cyber attack could affect the global food supply chain. So here are some things to note. Bill Gates is currently the largest private landowner in the United States with roughly 269,000 acres. Could this be because he has ties to the World Economic Forum who want governmental control over people's lives, including taking over the global food supply? There have been a crazy amount of fires at food processing plants and fertilizer companies. Many of these are still under investigation and resulted in a huge amount of loss of food products, and fertilizer. And I don't know how closely you guys follow this, but I'm going to give you just a handful of the ones that have been reported. This certainly isn't all of them. This is just a handful. Okay. On April 18th of this year, Azure Standard in Oregon. They're a premier independent distributor of healthy organic food. They were destroyed by fire. Cause of the fire is unknown. Okay. On April 13th of this year, Taylor Farms in Salinas, California. This was a major producer of fruits and vegetables. It was it's believed that 40,000 gallons of ammonia were stored there. They have 20 facilities across America, but that was a huge loss as far as the fruits and vegetables go. And on March 31st, in San Juan, Texas, a third-generation family farming operation grows, packs, and ships many Texas-grown items, including sweet onions, cabbage, kale, melons, and greens. And the fire basically wiped out their 100,000 square foot fresh onion packing facility. It is one of the state's largest, and this one is still under investigation. On March 28th of this year in Arizona, now this one's a little bit different, but it does affect food for people. They had 50,000 pounds of food that were destroyed when their food bank, it's the Maricopa, Arizona Food Pantry, it destroyed 50,000 pounds of food. It fed weekly, I think it was roughly 1,200 families. And again, they don't have a cause for it. March 24th of this year, it was at the, and I'm not going to say this right, Penobscot. It's basically a potato processing plant. Okay, they plant, grow, care for, harvest, store, ship, and process potatoes. March 16th, Walmart distribution center in Indiana, 1.2 million square feet, a warehouse. And in addition to the food, this also had things like clothing, electronics, and shipping materials. They're still investigating it. Do you see the thread here? March 16th, the Nestle Jonesboro plant in Arkansas. Extensive damage. And this is where they produce frozen foods for Stouffer's, Lean Cuisine, DiGiorno Pizzas, Tombstone, Hot Pockets, and the Sweet Earth brands. So, yeah, it suffered significant damage especially to the Hot Pockets production line. It cost them $100 million to build it, and there's significant damage to it. Again, no cause listed. February 28th, the Nutrient Ag Solutions. Now, this was a fertilizer facility. 18,000 square feet storage building was destroyed by the fire. More than 1.7 million pounds of sulfur burned. Ammonium sulfate, 236,000 pounds of that was destroyed. But again, they're not sure why. February 16th, a fire broke out at the largest soybean and biodiesel processing plant in the United States. Undetermined amount of damage. And then they've had maintenance shutdowns at plants in Iowa and Minnesota, which is also adding to the prices going up for that animal feed and that biofuel. So, and again, the cause of that fire remains undisclosed. January 31st, a fertilizer plant in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Let's see if I get... Okay, that one didn't actually have the amount in it, but it's... Because it's a fertilizer plant, it could have been, if it had like exploded, it would have been the biggest explosions ever in the United States. No cause for that one that I know of. January 13th of this year, Cargill Nutrina feed mill. The fire burned for over 12 hours. 140,000 ton mill manufactures feed for pet food, aquaculture, equine, beef, poultry, dairy, and wild game industries. Cause of this fire is unknown and remains under investigation. I'm trying to put all of this in perspective for you. How many of these major food processing plants and fertilizer plants have been damaged or destroyed just within the last few months? The last one I have, December 12th of 2021, the Westside Food Processing Plant, San Antonio, Texas. suffered over $100,000 in damages to food supplies. Okay. It's really interesting, isn't it? On top of all of that, we have the bird flu, which happened to come in at a very inopportune time or opportune time, depending on who you are. And it's decimating turkeys and chickens. I think the last count, if I remember, was over 20 million birds that have had to be destroyed. Considering the fact that fertilizer is already hard to come by or very expensive, and the food prices are increasing. Is this another way to continue the food shortages, increase the prices, and stomp down the path to government control over our food supply? I don't believe that all of these destructive events are coincidental. And I don't believe we will ever really know the true causes. Some of them say that they're under investigation. Some of them say they're undisclosed. But I do believe that we can all see how this can push forward the WEF agenda. Somebody wants this to happen. Number 3, when the last administration was in power, the U.S. was fully energy independent. This doesn't just mean we produced more energy than we consumed. It also meant that we were the third largest exporter of energy. And that had a huge impact on us being able to keep our gas prices so low. This administration, however, has completely flipped our energy independence due largely to its concern about climate change and how drilling affects the environment. It almost seems as though they want us dependent upon other countries, and almost as if they want our prices to stay high. I guess the higher the prices stay, the more dependent upon the government the people become. Someone wants this to happen. Number 4, there's been a huge push for everyone to get the life jacket over the last 2 years. This moved to having virtue cards, and now there's an incredible amount of talk out there about getting chips implanted to track your health and your bank accounts. This is what the WEF calls the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and that involves transhumanism. And if you're not familiar with what that is, it's when technology is blended with the human essence. When the lines basically between humanness and technology become blurred, and there is a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identity. They say, and I talked about this in one of my other videos, that they already have the technology and the means in which to control people. This is where we are headed, and someone wants this to happen. If you believe for a second that none of this is planned, then you have not been paying attention. There's a realm of power that stays in sight but out of reach. Ones who know what they want and they have the power to make things happen. And that goes against the common good. This isn't a war between left and right and them and us. It always has been a war between good and evil. The battle has been raging for centuries. This war is not yet over, and the stakes have never been higher. So I want to leave you with this Bible verse. But first I want to say, think about the people that want all of these things to happen. Think about the trajectory that we are on right now. Okay? It's only a matter of time. So I want to leave you with this Bible verse. It's Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and God bless.